Hi everyone, it's Danny. Alrighty, so I got myself a new orchid, but I thought I could make an educational video out of this instead of just showing you what orchid I purchased. And today we're going to discuss about how to choose Cattleya orchids when you decide to purchase one. So you see them in the store, but you might not know too much about Cattleya orchids. I'm just going to show you how a healthy Cattleya looks like in comparison to a not so healthy Cattleya. So I hope this will help you choose a Cattleya better. So we'll discuss about my new Cattleya orchid at the end of the video because she is a heavenly creature. It is my pride and joy, but we'll get to her. Alrighty, so when you buy Cattleya orchids in the store, most probably you will not see a clear plastic pot. Except Phalaenopsis orchids, none of the other orchids are sold in clear plastic pots, or on rare occasion you will see them, so you will not have access to the root system. You cannot see if the roots are okay, if they're alive, how many roots the orchid has, but there are a few signs, external signs, that you can look for in order to assess the health of a Cattleya orchid. Now, when you choose a Cattleya orchid, I cannot stress this enough, don't look at the flower to be an indicator of its health. Of course, the flower is important because you need to like it. If you want a fragrant Cattleya, you'll be able to smell it. If you like the colors, of course, you're gonna get it. But the flower is really, in rare occasions, an indicator of health. There is one exception that I will reach eventually, but other than that, don't look at the flower. The best indicator of health is actually the foliage and the pseudobulb. Now I have here a very healthy Cattleya, and I know she is very healthy because all the pseudobulbs look good. Also, this orchid is really full. If it only had 3 pseudobulbs, that could have been a bit tricky, but she has so many pseudobulbs that I know that even if she might not have too many roots, she has all of this energy piled up and stocked to feed the new growth, that it's really impossible to go wrong with a full bushy Cattleya orchid. So if you have the option to choose, go for the Cattleya orchid that has the most pseudobulbs. More pseudobulbs means more energy, more nutrients, and more moisture stocked up. Also, when you purchase a new Cattleya orchid, it's nice to have a few directions of growth. Now, this is the latest pseudobulb that bloomed from this side, but this orchid has quite a few other very fresh pseudobulbs that are not fully mature yet. This is one of them, and inside you can already see a little sheath and a few buds. Again, this is a new pseudobulb. This one, you can see the difference, is a new pseudobulb. Usually the new pseudobulbs will be slightly lighter in color than the other pseudobulbs. The sheath on it will not be dry in comparison to an old pseudobulb, which will have a dried sheath around it. The pseudobulb that has a green sheath still around it is a fresh pseudobulb. So the more directions of growth a Cattleya has, the better it will be, because it will put out more and more pseudobulbs, and you will have more chances to actually get more blooms from this orchid in time. Okay, now let's look at the foliage. As you can see, I don't have any weird spotting on the foliage. Everything looks very nice, very green. There aren't splashes of color or discolorations or rotting points or stuff like that. So when you choose a Cattleya orchid, try to look for those orchids that do not have too many spots on them. There are a few cases in which, let's call them freckles, might appear, and they are normal when a particular hybrid or a species receives quite high light. But sometimes, or most of the times, for the complex hybrids you can find at grocery shops, they will not have those spots. There are just a few varieties or species that present the spots. Those are normal, but they are usually purple in color. They are not black. When you press on them, you don't really feel them. They just feel one with the leaf. So when you choose a Cattleya orchid, try to choose one that does not have any discolorations or spots on the leaves. Okay, now let's take a look at the pseudobulbs. The new pseudobulbs as well as the old pseudobulbs look really plump and nice. They do not have wrinkles. Now, this is not a very good indicator really, because Cattleya orchids might have an inertia. The roots might be starting to die, and the pseudobulbs might still be plump and nice because they feed each other. So this is not necessarily a good indicator, but if you have the option to choose between a Cattleya which has wrinkly pseudobulbs and one that has plump pseudobulbs, go for the one that has plump pseudobulbs. This means that the root system might actually be good on this type of Cattleya. Again, you have to look at the pseudobulbs to be green or to have as green as possible pseudobulbs. Try to go for the ones that don't have weird black spots on the pseudobulbs, rotting points, and so on. Returning to the bloom, I told you there is one exception to the rule that the bloom will not show you disease. There is only one exception, a virus infestation. Now, usually orchids might come in different patterns, but the colors they display are usually pretty solid, even if they're pale. Flowers that have streaks of color, and I will try to show you an example on the screen right now, they might be virused. That is an indication that a plant, an orchid, might have a virus. So if you have the option to choose between a flower that has solid color, maybe this is not the best example because it's white, but I'll try to show you on the screen right now. If you have the option to choose an orchid that has a full color on the flower and one that has some color streaks, some pretty weird spots of color, let's call them, something that does not look like a pattern, always go for the ones that have full color, never the ones that have streaks of color. Okay, I've shown you a pretty healthy Cattleya orchid that I just purchased. I'll now show you a pretty sick Cattleya orchid. I bought it knowing that it is sick, but I do trust my own ability to save Cattleya orchids. If, however, you're a beginner or you simply do not want to hassle with sick orchids, don't go for something that looks like this. Thank you, Jackie. This is not amusing, you know. Sick orchids are not amusing. So alrighty, I'll show you a sick Cattleya, the signs you need to look for. So first of all, let's take the leaves. As you can see, there is a major difference between the leaves of this Cattleya orchid and the leaves of this one. The only difference is that this Cattleya orchid was very dehydrated. It did not have any roots, and you might know the repotting video. If you don't know the repotting video, I'll add an annotation here so you can see it. This orchid had absolutely no roots, and furthermore, the pseudobulb was disconnected from the other pseudobulbs, so the mother plant was split into two. This was a special case, but it is pulling through. Right now it's gonna look really awful for a period of time, but it will look better. So if you see a Cattleya orchid that has this type of leaf, know that this is dehydration. Don't go for something like this unless you want to hassle with a dehydrated orchid. Now, of course, dehydration might happen because the orchid was not watered in time, but because Cattleya orchids really withstand drought pretty well, most probably this is an indication of a lack of root system. If the orchid does not have roots, it cannot absorb moisture from the media. Thus, it will get dehydrated. So the leaves will most probably look like this. Now, another sign of dehydration is, of course, wrinkly pseudobulbs. And I don't know if you can see here the fine wrinkles the pseudobulb has. This is a clear sign of dehydration. In comparison, the pseudobulb on this one is really plump. It has no fine wrinkles. There are a few Cattleya orchids that have ridges in their pseudobulbs, and I'll show you. So this is a Cattleya that has ridges, but it does not have fine wrinkles. This Cattleya orchid is not dehydrated. It is a genetical trait for her to have ridges. But when you see very fine wrinkles like this is not genetic. This is dehydration. So don't go for an orchid, a Cattleya orchid that has pseudobulbs with very fine wrinkles. And of course, if it has these wrinkles on the leaf as well, it is a clear sign of dehydration. Of course, the top of the media can tell you something very important about the orchid. If it's full of molds and it has a weird smell, and the roots that you see on the top look really awful, dark and pretty mushy, most probably the orchid has a serious root problem. If the roots that once were alive are not alive anymore and they start to decompose in the old media, they will retain a lot of moisture and they will create the perfect environment for mold. So molds can actually be a good indicator to know if the orchid has good roots or not. And lastly, if your orchid somehow has water trapped in between the leaves or the sheaths, it is a very good idea to remove it with a paper napkin when you get home. Now, when I purchased this orchid, they were just watering it just then. So it was full of water in the crowns. This is never good because it can create crown rot. When I got it home, I immediately removed the water and actually put this orchid in a very drafty location. So if you have a drafty location or a fan in the room, it is a good idea to place this orchid in that draft so it can dry very well. Okay, so now that we've talked about what to look for with Cattleya orchids, let me tell you a little bit about this particular Cattleya. It is a no ID, so we will have to name it. Now, it is impossible to ID this orchid because there are a lot of pure white flowers out there. But if you would like to find this orchid, I'll give you a few details. I purchased it from Hornbach here in Europe, so if you have this store in your country, give it a look and maybe you will find it. The company is Flora Self, maybe you know it. So that's where I got it from. So if you see this type of Cattleya in a Hornbach store, most probably it is this one. Now the flower is pristine white. It is so beautiful. Don't mind a few spots here and there. It is because of the inappropriate care it received. The best thing about this orchid is its fragrance. I swear I've never felt anything like this. So I will try to describe the fragrance of this orchid because it is intoxicating right now. It's filling up my whole balcony. The fragrance is really strong on this one, and it seems to be layered in a way. The base layer is kind of creamy, so it's kind of like a hand cream. But then when you smell it and you start to analyze the fragrance, this really powerful citrus flower smell hits you. It is absolutely wonderful. But then the aftertaste is something totally different. It smells like roses, but not your usual rose. I don't even know what type of rose that is, but when I was a kid, my grandma had a particular type of rose in her garden, which she used to make syrup out of or jam. I know it sounds weird maybe to make jam from roses, rose petals, but I swear it was really tasty and good. And it smells just like that rose, the aftertaste. When you smell it, it's soft and creamy and citrusy, the citrus flower, but then it's just roses. It is such a wonderful smell. I cannot believe that these no ID hybrids can have this type of fragrance. That is why I purchased it. I really wanted a perfectly white Cattleya as well, although the lip has a little bit of green on it, which is really nice. But the flower itself is absolutely beautiful. It is very white. It is so fragrant. You cannot believe I've never felt a fragrance like this. I'm so happy. You cannot believe it. I don't mind that it is a no ID, but I do mind because I cannot recommend it to you guys. I cannot say this is a name, go search for it on a store. So that's what bugs me with the no ID. But the good news is you get to name it. So leave me your suggestions in the comment section below with the name you think will be appropriate for this orchid. Alrighty, so thank you for watching this video. Hope you found it useful. I tried to compile two ideas into one, my new orchid and how to choose a healthy Cattleya orchid. So I hope this was helpful. If you want to see more videos from me, don't forget to subscribe. You can leave me comments and suggestions in the comment section below and I'll get back to you. You can visit orchidnature.com, which is my website for care sheets, forums, and other goodies. And also you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you'd like to see what other stuff I share with you. Alrighty, I'll see you next time. Bye!